Paul, good morning. Thanks for the time.
It is a pleasure to be back, guys. So what's going on this morning?
I know that you had a chance to talk to Scott Woodward the day that LSU made the news in hiring and bringing him back home from College Station. What do you make of the move now that that Woodward, this is his actual first day on the job today?
I think it is an absolutely brilliant move by LSU. You are replacing arguably the worst athletic director in the SEC for what I think is possibly the best athletic director, and that's a good trade. When I say the worst, I mean just in terms of dealing with people, making pragmatic decisions, being collaborative, and Scott Woodward has shown that already at so many places. And an athletic director cannot change everything overnight, but he can alter the culture, and he can inspire people to for a common goal. And I know that sounds like stuff you see in a motivational speech, but it's true. I mean, I've seen what he has done at A&M, and I have great confidence that he'll do the same thing in Baton Rouge.
I have the same feeling on Woodward. I think his biggest skill set, the biggest positive that he brings to LSU is his ability to work with people. I mean, just being an understander of personalities and putting them in the right spot. How do you think he handles the Wade situation, the Will Wade situation?
I think he'll be deliberate, and I don't know all the things that the university knows right now. I think it's a delicate situation, and I think everyone has screamed and hollered and given opinions, based on probably little information, including myself. But I think he'll just take a good long look, and I think too many people are drawing conclusions on his relationship with Mark Emmert. That's not going to have anything to do with what he decides on Will Wade. It may. I mean, he certainly will have a lot of perhaps some more information and some perspective. But I just think the university is waiting to see what shoe is going to drop next, or what skeleton is going to fall out of a closet in the Wade situation.
We've seen the early days of this testimony with the federal trial, Paul, and Wade is obviously going to be brought up at some point. But the early days of the testimony have schools all over the country implicated here, including football programs around the country. Where do you think this thing stops, and what do you ultimately think is the fallout from this case?
Well, if you take a narrow view, really nothing has happened yet in New York that is probably going to dramatically impact anyone. If you take a broader view and say, man, I can't believe all this is going on, then you're pretty naive. Guys, we love college athletics, but especially basketball college basketball has become a cesspool where there's really almost no control over it. Football is still hanging on by a thread to have a modicum of integrity, but I think the question is how much longer that lasts. But so far, I think Will Wade has to be pretty happy with the manner in which this trial has gone.
We're talking to Paul Finebaum, host of the Paul Finebaum Show. Paul, I want to talk to you about some draft. How about this? The SEC having 64 players drafted yesterday, a record in the modern drafting era. Is there any better statement as to the dominance of that conference in that sport?
No, and listen, you can measure the prowess of the league any way you want, and certainly national championships have a lot to do with it, and I don't think the SEC needs to apologize to anyone. But ultimately, if you talk about talent, NFL GMs, NFL scouts, NFL head coaches know where the talent is, and that's why they'll take a chance on an SEC player. And it's remarkable. But I mean, listen, if you understand it, you played the game. I mean, if you're a high school player and you want to be in the best league, then you know where to go. By the way, I don't have any problem with people going wherever they want. But if you go to Clemson, which to me is as close to the SEC as you can get, you'll compete for a national championship. But week in, week out, you won't see the same type of competition that you will at LSU or Ole Miss or Alabama or anywhere else.
Paul, the ACC's won 2 out of the 3 last national championships, with Clemson winning 2 versus Alabama, the Tide taking the 1 versus Georgia. Do you think the national champion comes out of the SEC this year in football?
Yes, I do. I think you have to be foolish to make predictions and not include Alabama or Clemson in any of your
Sure.
in any of your prognostications. I mean, that's proven. But I think you have to look deeper, and quite frankly, I've gone back and forth on LSU, but looking at the prospective talent coming out next year, and understanding where that program is based on what Coach O did last year. I mean, I think LSU is right at that next level. I mean, you have Alabama, Clemson, and then you can put Georgia in there if you want, and take a flyer on Oklahoma or someone from the Big Ten, whether it be Michigan or Ohio State. But I think LSU is definitely in the next rung, and by that I mean somewhere between maybe 5 and 8. And I think LSU could get in. I've studied LSU's schedule like you guys have, and I think you get out of Texas, and it's clear sailing until you get to the Alabama game. And I think LSU has a path to get to the national championship tournament, the Final Four, so to speak, even with a loss to Alabama.
Paul, okay, look, maybe I'm being a little naive here, but I want your reaction. I want your reaction when I tell you that LSU's offense is truly going to be different this year, Paul. They've changed. It's going to be wide open, a spread attack. What's your reaction when you hear that?
Well, I'm thrilled because I hear that. I've heard that a few times.
Yes.
And then we get to the biggest game of the year, which you guys know is Alabama.
Yeah.
And it looks like Ed Orgeron, hired Les Miles to be the offensive coordinator. I mean, I love Coach O, like everyone probably listening. But the one thing I have yet to understand in the games against, especially not so much maybe the first year when, and the second year when he was playing a chess match trying to win, but last year. I did not understand the philosophy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you just have to go for broke. There is nothing to lose because the odds of you losing that game are extremely high. Just try anything. I mean, I don't care what you do. So I hope what you say is correct, and if that is correct, then I think LSU maybe is at least in a position to make a run this year. And when I mean a run like LSU is accustomed to doing, not playing for second or third in the division, but taking a wild swing at the piñata with maybe finishing on top.
SEC Media Days shifting back to your hometown, back to Birmingham this year. We've seen Mike Slive announce the SEC Network at this event. We've seen Slive put the emphasis and highlight the basketball programs around the conference, and Greg Sankey kind of carry that message throughout. What do you think the message is going to be from Sankey when he takes the podium this year after all the adversity that's happened off the court, off the field with the conference?
I think he's got a pretty difficult task. I mean, I have a pretty good idea what he'll say, but how it's received are two different things because you guys watch the same league I do, and if you want to promote basketball, which I think is great, you also have to deal with the underbelly of it, and the underbelly of college basketball in the SEC this year was certainly questionable and dubious, and LSU was not alone, by the way, in that regard. I think another issue, and it may come up before media days because the calendar is interesting. Everything turns to baseball right now, and with Hoover coming up in 2 or 3 weeks. But immediately after that is Destin, where you get a preamble to what happens in Birmingham at media days. And I think the number one topic in Destin is going to be future scheduling, and maybe divisions, because there are some athletic directors in the SEC who don't like the current setup. They don't like the way Missouri is in the East. Auburn people want to move from the West to the East, and I think there's also a pretty healthy discussion about not being able to play people from the other side. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody makes a plan, at least a proposal, to just blow up the whole system that we currently have and do what other leagues have done and go to no divisions.
Yeah, look, I don't think I'd be too upset if LSU didn't have to play a Dan Mullen Florida team that looks like they're getting better and better every single year.
They
Paul,
are, by the way.
Paul, are you a big Game of Thrones fan?
I must admit, I keep up with it, but man, I would be on a scale of 1,000 people, I would be 999 in understanding it very well.
Okay. I just wanted to know what you thought about last night's episode.
Paul, we appreciate the time as always. We'll see you at SEC Media Days.
Next time I come back, I will give you a thesis on Game of Thrones. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Paul Finebaum checking in today. You can check him out on the SEC Network, 2 to 6 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday. We'll be back and close that hour number 1.